Hi y'all, bonjour, hola, my name is Trish. If you're new, welcome. So guys, thank you all for your voting on the community tab. So in this tutorial, I'm not only going to give you one flyer, but two. So the one that was most liked is this one. And I also came up with another scheme that I would like to share with you all. So without much ado, let's get started. There is a link in the description. Just click on it and you'll be able to download these files so you can follow along. So I'm going to drag and drop this in and I'm going to set it up in the corner. Now, if you don't see your activation on, you need to make sure that you click on your layer, go under edit, hit transform and click on scale. Now with your transform activated, just hold one end and just drag. And I'm going to go ahead and drop this in. Now we are going to do the same thing and we are going to scale it like this. So we're going to change the blend mode of this and set it to soft light. So the next thing we're going to do is that we want to go ahead and add a gradient. Go under your adjustment, click on gradient, and we want to add a purple gradient. So you want to click on your color stock, choose the purple that you want. In this case, we want this exact purple. And I'm going to go ahead to click OK. Now I'm going to go ahead to click OK. Now we want to change the angle. So I'm going to set the angle to something more like this. And I'm going to go ahead to click OK. We are going to go ahead to just make a copy of our existing gradient. So select the layer, drag it all the way down to the plus icon. Now we want to click on that one. It brings up the gradient fill and we are going to flip so we have something more like this. Now go ahead and click OK. The next thing we are going to do is that we want to go back to our resource and I'm going to drag and drop this image in and I'm going to set it up like that. Now you can scale it a little bit so it fits within your canvas. Now we are going to do two things. We want to blend in the bottom. So you want to make sure that you go under your adjustment with your layer selected, click on the layer mask icon, and you want to go ahead and pick up your brush tool with your foreground as black. We all know black hides, white reveals when working with layer masks. Now, before we paint, you want to make sure your cap locks is off. If your cap locks is on, you get this cursor, which is the cross. Now, if you click off your cap locks on your keyboard, you can see the brush head. Now, we want to increase the brush head. So click on your left and right bracket to increase your brush head on your keyboard. Now, before we begin to paint, we want to right click on our brush. Make sure your hardness is set to 0 and not 100. So set it back to 0. Now you can come out of this and we can go ahead and paint so it blends in. Now you have to make sure your opacity and your flow at the top is 100%. So with this set, we want to go ahead and add in an adjustment levels and change the color of our top image. So you want to click on your adjustment and you want to go ahead and choose a hue and saturation. Now in your property bar, you see this little icon. Click on that icon so that all the changes you make is clipped to only the layer below because that's what we want. Now you want to go up in your property. You want to play with the hue and saturation. We are trying to go for a goldish color. So we want something more like this. So with this set, we are going to click on our layer mask for our hue and saturation. And we want to basically take away from the color. So we still maintain our purple at the top and the bottom. Now let's move it up a little bit more. So we're going to go to our resource and we are going to drag and drop in this. Go and click on convert to layers. You want to say yes. Now go back to your property and click on remove background. Now Photoshop does well taking off the background for us. We want to click on our layer. Make sure you're clicking on the thumbnail of your subject, not on the layer mask. Now you want to go under Image, Adjustment, Brightness and Contrast, and you want to increase the contrast to basically bump up the richness of your subject. Now go ahead and click OK. Now we want to get rid of the layer mask background. So right click on the layer mask, right click on your image and say Apply Layer Mask. So now we basically get rid of our background. Now we want to go back and add in a layer mask. Pick up your brush tool with your foreground as black. We want to basically blend in our subject. So with this set, we are going to go back to our resource and we are going to drag in our second subject. Now we are going to repeat the same step. So click on your layer, go under your property, click on Convert to Layers, and go back and click on Remove Background. Now, when you do that, you notice that there are a few imperfections. So we are basically going to zoom in and we are going to pick up our brush, flip our foreground, and we are going to paint in this area to show her hat. With your lasso tool, you can basically trim around your hat just like that. It doesn't have to be precise because of all the layering that we are going to do. So once you have your selection, make sure you're on the layer mask thumbnail, flip your foreground to black, pick up your brush and basically paint around to hide it. Now, the next thing we want to do is that we don't want to keep her top white. We want to change it to yellow. So before we do that, we want to right click on the layer, apply a layer mask, get rid of the layer mask completely. Now we are going to use our object selection tool and we are just going to make a selection around her top. We are going to go ahead and basically click on our adjustment, add a solid color. Now we want to change her color. We want to change that to like a yellow. So we're going to change the color to linear burn, or you can choose whichever one you want. So if you don't want the yellow so intense, we can add a blend if. So double click on your color fill and you want to hold down your option, split your underlining layer and you can move it. So when you move it, you see that you still have the color, but it's not too much. We can set our subject in the background. To do that, you want to click on that layer and pull that layer beneath like that. Now we need to add a layer mask and pick up our brush tool with our foreground as black. We want to go ahead and basically paint the bottom portion of our subject. And I'm going to set my foreground and background to white, black and white by clicking on the default, and we are going to basically choose the font that we want to use. And Zildjian, that's going to be the font, and I'm going to go ahead and type in mother, and I'm going to click on my move tool and I'm just going to scale it like that. Now to open up the spacing, you want to click on your layer, go under your property VA to space it up. Highlight just a big M and I want to make it bigger. We are going to go ahead and bring in a textured image to apply to this. So we are going to go back to our resource and I'm going to drag and drop this image in. I'm going to double click to accept. Now you want to clip it to the text. So we're going to hold down options and we are just going to clip it. So click on the layer and you want to go under image adjustment, brightness and contrast. We want to increase our contrast to bump up the color richness. So it's very rich and intense. Now with this set, we are going to click OK. We are going to click on the font itself, double click to bring up the layer style. We want to add a drop shadow. Now we want to go ahead and play with the drop shadow effect. So we have something more like this. And I'm going to go ahead to click OK. Now we want to get rid of that the texture on the O, but leave it on all the other text. So you want to click on your gold text and you want to add a layer mask. Now we are going to go ahead to zoom in, pick up your rectangular marquee tool, make a selection around your text like that, pick up your brush tool with your foreground as black. We paint over that to basically hide it. Command D to deselect. So with this set, we can go a step further, click on the image, go under filter and choose camera raw filter. Now we want to increase and bump up the richness of our color so our gold effect really pops more. So I'm just increasing the contrast, the temperature, and maybe a little bit of the vibrance. And I'm going to go ahead to click OK. So you see that we have a rich gold effect. Now, the next thing is I'm going to go ahead and type in day, which is, I'm going to change this to ethnocentric font. And we are going to obviously scale this down because it's too big. I'm going to set it here. We're going to zoom in and I'm going to scale it down. I'm going to type in service. So I'm going to reduce my font like that. And we are going to type in service. I'm going to highlight it. Now we want to change the font of this as well. And we are going to use the Adela. And I'm going to select everything except the S. Go under my property, the double T, turn that off. So we basically have the uppercase and everything else lowercase. Now I'm going to increase my font size and I'm going to set this here like that. Now to make it pop, we want to add a little bit of a shadow effect. Double click on your font, add a drop shadow. Now this is good enough, so I'm going to click OK and I'm going to repeat the same thing for the day. Add a drop shadow and click OK, and basically you are set with the shadow. So the next thing we want to do is that we want to go ahead and type in the date of the event. Now we all know Mother's Day is on the 8th of May. So we are just going to go ahead and type in 8th. And I'm going to highlight. We are using the Century Gothic Pro. I'm going to go ahead to increase it. Double click. I'm going to highlight and we are going to set this to bold and I'm going to decrease it a little and I'm going to set it right there. Now I'm going to go ahead and basically add May and I'm going to highlight just that and I'm going to go under my property. I'm going to make that smaller so it fits right beneath the 8th. And to close up the spacing, I'm going to select both, go under A over A, and we are going to decrease the spacing. Now I'm going to move this and set that right there. So with this set, we are going to go ahead to type in the time. So I'm just going to go ahead to make a copy of this, Command J, pull this over here, and I'm just going to go ahead to type in. So notice that I brought in the name. Now you can go ahead and also type in your address. Now the next thing we want to do is go back to our resource and we are going to drop in a dove and I'm going to set that right there and I'm going to move it in the corner. Now we can make a copy, Command J, make a copy, set that on the bottom and we can go ahead and scale this down a little bit more and set that somewhere here. So next we want to go back to our resource and we are going to drop in this light source. Now we need to click on that layer, change the blend mode, and we are going to set on screen. Now screen basically hides anything that is black. We are going to make a copy, Command J, and we are going to set it somewhere here. Now I brought in another lens flare effect, which I will also make available for you to download. Now we are changing the blend mode to screen and we are going to set that right there. notice that you can still see the outline. So you can pick up your eraser, and we are going to go ahead to just paint to basically hide anything. Go ahead and type in your church name, and you can even bring in your church logo as well. So once you have everything all set, now you want to apply a color lookup to bump up your colors. So before we do that, we want to click on our subject layer, go under image adjustment and brightness, and we want to just increase the brightness, and notice how all of a sudden our subject is looking all rich. So we want to go ahead and click OK. So go all the way to the top of your layer, hold down Shift Option Command E. We are going to make one file. Now you want to click on your filter, go under Camera Raw filter, and you want to go ahead and begin to play with the temperature as well as the contrast, and we can even play with the vibrance if we want, but we can sort of minimize it so it's not too much. Now you can go ahead and click OK. You can see this is the before and this is the after. Now if this is too much, you can even take the opacity down so that you get a bit of the color, but it's not too much. So you can see this is the before, this is the after. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Now I want to show you how you can create the second that y'all voted for. We want to group this layer, make sure all your layers are unlocked, and make sure all your layers are unlocked. That's the only way you can make a group. So I'm going through my layers and I'm making sure everything is unlocked. Now with my bottom layer selected, hold down Shift and select the top layer, and you can group it. Now we can make a copy. So select the layer and drag it to the plus icon, or Command J to make a copy. Now we can say Design 2, and this can be Design 1. So with Design 2, we are going to go ahead and obviously delete this. We don't need that. And we don't need this subject because we're doing just a single person. And we are going to set this lady here, go to our background, and I'm going to turn these off. Now we want to go ahead and basically bring in another image. So I'm going to go under my image, and I'm going to go and drag and drop in this image, and I'm going to scale it like that. Double click to accept. Now we want to change a few things around. So you want to click on, first of all, the name of the church. You can flip this to black so you can see that. Now we can basically hide the bird. We don't need the bird. And I'm going to go ahead and delete some of these things that we don't need. The lens flare, I'm just going to take that off. For the image text, we don't need it. So I'm going to take that off, and I'm going to go ahead and basically highlight this whole thing. And we are going to choose a hot pink, something like that. And we are going to set this a little bit more brighter. So with this set, we want to go ahead and basically select our service. So we are going to type in Mother's Day, and I'm going to highlight the AY. Under your property, you want to set that to lowercase. So you turn off the double T. We are going to click on the day that we don't need, and we're going to turn that off. Now we are going to set this up here, and we are going to rescale it, the mother, and I'm going to move that in like that. Now we are going to move the whole date and set that at the top. So guys, this is how you can quickly change up a design you already have. So with this set, I'm going to move this up a little, and I'm going to move her up. Now you want to obviously go ahead and move this somewhere here. We are going to move the time here. and I'm going to set this right there. Now we want to go ahead and double click and change the color to match her top. So we sort of play with this color scheme we already have. The next thing we want to do is, obviously the background has a text that we want to get rid of. So you want to select your Path Select tool, make a selection around the font area, and you want to click in that area. Photoshop will ask you if you want to convert this into a smart object. You want to say yes, and then move this to anywhere else that you want to match. Repeat the same thing, and basically you get rid of the background. Now we are going to go ahead to scale this out a little bit more, and I'm going to move the date in a little bit more. Now we can either scale our subject, or we can just set the name below like that. So we've changed up the name. We can go ahead and set the address on the bottom, or we can put it anywhere else we want. So I'm going to highlight what we already have, and I'm just going to go ahead and make it all on one line. And we are going to go under our property V/A. We are going to space it out, and we are going to set it on the bottom. You can double click on your layer. It will bring up the layer style, add a drop shadow, and then just close it. We want to make a copy, Command J, of our title, and we want to say conference, and we are going to set that on the bottom like that, and we are going to scale it and set that right there. We are going to go back to our resource library, and I'm going to go ahead and drag and drop this lady in, and I'm going to go ahead to scale her down like that. Now I'm going to go to my shapes, draw an ellipse around my subject. I'm going to fill in my fill, and then my stroke, I'm going to increase that to about a 10. Set that on top of my subject like that. So you want to make sure your photo is on top of your ellipse. That way you can hold down options and basically clip it so that it falls inside. Now you need to make sure that you select both layers and basically link it so that it stays intact. So when you move one, it moves the whole thing. Now you can scale both at the same time. Now you can repeat this step. So guys, this brings us to the end of this 2 flyer designs. I hope you enjoyed it. Please give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you in the next tutorial. And to all the mothers out there, happy Mother's Day. Bye y'all.